chilling in a different dimension. I've been manifesting all my love, peace, fame, money, health. Doing hot girl shit with my higher self, yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Grit, Grace, and Growth podcast, where we dive into real life challenges and how you can rise above them. I'm your host, Talisha Shanice, and I'm glad you're here with me today. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever doubted your success? Like, really felt like you were a fraud, thought you didn't deserve your wins? If that's you, and you said yes, first of all, you're not alone. And second, this episode's for you. Now, today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, that sneaky little voice in your head that tells you that you're not good enough, even when you're clearly good enough, okay? We're going to unpack it, what it is, why it shows up, and most importantly, how we can kick it to the curb. So let's get into it. So now look, I got to ask you, what exactly is imposter syndrome? In simple terms, it's that feeling of doubt or inadequacy, even when you have the skills and achievements and proof to show otherwise. It's that constant thought, I don't belong here, or I'm not what people think I am. Let me tell you something. Here's a surprising fact. Over 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at literally some point in their life, including me. Literally, I had imposter syndrome just recording this first video. And that includes also most successful people in the world too. Your celebrities, your CEOs, you name it. I mean, even Michelle Obama, she talks about feeling like she didn't belong in certain rooms, right? Now, here are some of the things and some of the signs that you might be dealing with imposter syndrome, because everybody doesn't know. 1, you downplay your accomplishments. 2, you feel like any success you have is due to luck, not your hard work. 3, you're constantly afraid of being exposed as a fraud. Them sound familiar? Let me tell you something. You're not alone. We all have those. Now, I want to share a little bit about my story because trust me, I've been there, right? When I started my business, I used to question myself every single day. I felt like I had to have every certification and every single piece of validation before I could even speak confidently about what it is that I already knew and who I already was. Like, I compare myself to people who had been in the game for years and think to myself, like, why would anybody listen to me? It didn't matter that I was helping people or even getting the results, honestly. Like, I couldn't shake that feeling of not being good enough. Like, it was crazy. Like, the turning point for me, it came when I realized that I was sabotaging myself and I was literally holding myself back. And I thought I was so focused on what I lacked that I couldn't even see the value that I was already bringing to the table. Like, come on. Now, what helped me was reminding myself of the facts, right? I had to sit down with myself and list out my accomplishments. When I started doing that and seeing all that was on paper, I was like, oh, wow, I really did that. And guess what? You've done a lot too. Now, you just might not be giving yourself enough credit for that. I had to really look like, T, you is really her. Now, I want to talk a little bit about why imposter syndrome even shows up, right? For a lot of us, it's rooted in perfectionism. We think we have to get everything right every single time or it don't count. Now, listen. It can also come from cultural or social pressures too. And the pressures that they put on us, especially as Black women. Like, we're literally often in spaces where we're expected to work twice as hard just to get half a recognition. That way can make us feel like we constantly have to prove ourselves. And then there's being in environments where you feel like the odds are out against you, whether that's because of your background, because of your experience, or just being new in the field, you know? It's easy to feel like you don't belong when you don't see people like you in the room. But let me remind you of something, sis. You do belong. You're in that space for a reason. Now sit with that. What other reason do you feel like you're not supposed to be in that space? So now we got to talk about how you deal with imposter syndrome. So let me give you some practical tips, right? And some of the things that I have used and that had worked for me and many other people to help us overcome the imposter syndrome. The first thing you got to do is acknowledge it. The first step is recognizing that feeling and calling it what it is. It's imposter syndrome. Just because you feel like a fraud doesn't mean that you literally are one. Number 2, you have to celebrate your wins. Start keeping a brag book if you have to. This is where you're going to write down your accomplishments, big or small. You got a new client? Write it down. Got positive feedback? Write it down. When those self-doubt thoughts creep in, you can go back to that and remind yourself of the facts. We already talked about it. Number 3, talk to your inner circle. Adults need villages too. Sometimes you need to remind yourself of who you really are, whether it's a mentor, a friend, or even a trusted colleague. Let them hype you up when you can't do it yourself. Stop trying to do everything alone. Number 4, focus on growth, not perfection. You don't have to know everything to start. Remember, success is about progress, not perfection. Now here's number 5. Reframe your thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking, I don't deserve this, flip it to, I work hard to be here. Your mind believes what you tell it. So speak what you seek until you see what you said. If you're in business, here's a bonus for you. People are paying you for what you do know, not for what you don't know. You don't need to be an expert in everything. You just need to have a skill and be skilled in what it is that you offer. Okay? Now, I want to wrap things up. So here is what I want you to take away from this episode. Okay? Imposter syndrome. It's a common thing, but it doesn't define you. Acknowledge your feelings, but don't let them stop you. You've earned your place at the table. Keep your place at the table. Okay? One of my favorite quotes is, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Do not let self-doubt rob you of your greatness. Okay? Here's a challenge I got for you this week. I want you to write down 3 things that you've accomplished that you're proud of. Share them with somebody that you trust, or even better yet, share them with me. I'll celebrate with you, sis, because I'm part of your village. Don't forget to tune into the next episode too, where we'll be talking about the power of building relationships in business. It's going to be good, so you don't want to miss it. I can't wait to hear all y'all wins, honey. Make sure that y'all share them with me so that you have a community that's going to share with you. We your village. Period. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If today's episode resonated with you, please share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review. It helps more people find this podcast and join our community so that they can be loved on just like you are. Now, make sure that you're following me on Instagram and Facebook for more tips and inspiration. And that's at Talisha Shanice or T Shanice on Instagram. And remember, you've got everything it takes to grow into the person that you are meant to be. Until next time, take care, sis. And keep growing.
Tension. Not afraid of my demons cause I'm friends with them. We've been chilling in a different dimension. I've been manifesting all my love, peace, fame, money, health. Doing hot girl shit with my heart.